NeoLoad Web is available as a SaaS instance or an on-premise installation. Customers using the SaaS model simply pay a subscription amount in order to connect and store their information on our servers. With the on-premise installation, the deployment comes as a series of Docker containers, so there's effectively zero install. Providing you have Docker up and running, you can download the containers, configure the launching script, and effectively just switch them on. In terms of the documentation, we cover the free deployments. So any open source available Linux distribution obviously is supported, and you can use the Docker Community Edition again, which is free of charge. We also support the enterprise deployments as well. So if you're using SUSE or Red Hat, you can download Docker Enterprise and obviously pay for that facility. In this example here, we're doing a manual installation of Docker. So I go to the Docker download page and I download my Docker instance. I then run the appropriate launching script to do that installation on my Linux deployment. The second thing we need to do is, as well as downloading and installing Docker, is we need to download and configure Docker Compose. Effectively, there's no real installation at this stage. We're simply going to just download it and drop it into an appropriate directory inside our Linux installation. The last part really is, once I've got Docker and Docker Compose installed, is to pick my deployment option. There are various deployments available in terms of how NeoLoad Web can be deployed. One is an all-in-one system whereby we give you containerized versions of the web server, the app server, and the database, or there's an all-in-one version where you can also have it running as HTTPS. You also have options, if you want to download the containers but have an external locally hosted copy of the database. In this example here, I've downloaded the Docker install. Obviously, I would have installed Docker Compose, and I've downloaded the all-in-one YAML. After reviewing the installation documentation, there's effectively 6 lines that we would need to execute. So, assuming that I've downloaded Docker, I would simply call the Docker command to install it. And then I would run the Docker test utility. So basically, I would run Docker with a little hello world container just to verify installation was successful. As you can see, we're going to do this here. So we've downloaded a Docker hello world container, it's run, and it's confirmed that installation is successful because we're able to run a Docker container. The next command here is to install Docker Compose. As I mentioned before, it's not really an installation. You're simply just downloading a set of files and placing them in a relevant directory in your Linux installation. The last command there that we just quickly moved over is simply just to give it executable permissions. So it's in the right place. I'm going to run Docker Compose with the version switch just to verify again that it's available and it works. The final option here is I'm going to launch my NeoLoad Web installation, my series of Docker containers. So I've got my all-in-one YAML file, my configuration file. Before I can actually obviously launch NeoLoad Web, I need to configure my environment. So if we go down to my downloaded file, we'll open it up in a text editor. You can see here that one of the things I need to do is map the database locations. So map the drive inside the container to a physical drive on my host. Not only obviously where the database lives, but where any database backups will be placed. I update various content in here with the correct URL, so my host name of my machine. And then there may be other settings like memory tuning that I decide to do as well. One thing to be aware of is when you're doing upgrades, always compare your file to the one that's available on the website to make sure any new flags, any new settings are taken into account. Details about the content of these files can be found inside the help. Once our file is configured and we're happy, we can simply launch that file or run that launch file and NeoLoad Web will start up. So we execute a command, we can see the database is being spun up, our web server front end is being started up, our application server is being started up, and relevant information is being displayed inside the terminal window. Once NeoLoad Web is up and running, we can go to our login screen. So back in the web browser, I open up the relevant tab. Now, obviously, when I went to localhost the first time, there was no application server running. If I try it now with NeoLoad Web up and running, you can see the NeoLoad Web launch page and the login page is being displayed. The default user is admin. Initially, the user password is NeoLoad Web, password change it, as displayed in the message. Once you're inside NeoLoad Web, like before, you can start creating users, start running tests, and so on.